Hi, friends. Welcome to Leaders in Lockdown, the inner game. Today, we're going to be in conversation with a very close friend of mine, very dear friend of mine, Konika Chadha. She is currently the head of professional search for Kornferry, India. She is someone who has worked in the financial services sector. She's worked in GE, ICICI Prudential, she's worked in American Express, and she has then transitioned onto the professional search side and currently heads a team and is running the P&L for professional search for Kornferry in India. So she is also been awarded Exceptional Woman Leader by the World Economic Forum and also received the Her Rising Award last year. So very, very thrilled to have her here and talk about her inner game. Let's go. So hi Konika, so wonderful to have you here for Leaders in Lockdown, the inner game. Welcome to this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me here. I think this is something very interesting and much needed. So it's my pleasure to be part of this conversation.
Thanks so much. So let's dive straight into the conversation. To tell me when this lockdown crisis hit you and your organization, what was the first response like?
Okay, so I think the way I will put it is, I think somewhere we were preempting something like this to happen. So before the formal lockdown actually hit us, as an organization, thanks to us being a global firm, we'd already started experiencing this in other parts of the world. So we very promptly started putting people almost 2 weeks in advance on a work from home kind of a arrangement.
Right.
We stopped all travel. We weren't encouraging any sort of travel. So thank God for that decision, because people were home, people were with the family. Everybody was safe. We didn't have issues of people getting stuck somewhere. The virtue of the work we do is something which can be done from home. And we've been very open as an organization to really look at this policy. So I think for us, luckily, it was a smooth transition. And because we took action in advance, preempting it, I think even from a business continuity perspective, we didn't come in a scenario that, in 2 days, everybody had to move, etc.
Right.
So that way it was it was definitely a smooth transition. But the period through which we've gone through the whole transition, I think that has turned out to be much longer than what we had anticipated.
Right. And so the fact that it has gone on longer than what you thought it would, what challenges has that brought about for you as a leader?
So I'll tell you what happens is, initially you are in that phase of denial where you feel that, oh, this is just a couple of days and things are going to come back to normal. And you start operating exactly in the mode in which you are operating in a normal day, right? But this time, that work from home is a very different work from home. It's not like a work from home where on a regular day you decide because of certain family reasons or other reasons you've decided to work from home once in a while. This was a work from home where your husband, your kids, your in-laws, and everybody is in-house. Everybody is working from home. Your kids are fighting with you because there's that much of bandwidth and they have their online classes going on. Your husband needs space because he has his own work to do and I have my own work to do. So suddenly the space which earlier was enough suddenly seems it's not enough. And everybody has to accommodate in, that limited space you have. So I think that it was a challenging time because all of us had to kind of eventually settle down for our own respective place to operate and work peacefully without really intruding into each other's so-called privacy, which used to be there at one point in time, which no longer exists. There is no structure to the day or when it starts and when it ends. I remember my son coming and saying, "Oh, it's a Saturday tomorrow." So I think that's the state that we had kind of gotten into, and I'm sure some of them are still into that stage.
Mm-hmm.
So these were some of those initial challenges, and obviously it has brought in different kind of scenarios for different people because they are going through different kind of phases. There are people who just don't have a separate designated area from where they can work.
Right.
And like I just said, we don't have a time where the kids are in school, so they have to be taken care of.
Right.
And most of all, I think we all are very spoiled with house help, and suddenly that goes away. So that's another challenge that you have to kind of work around with.
Yeah, yeah. So for you, in terms of, because you handle a business vertical and you have a P&L responsibility and all of that, and you have a team that you also have to manage. So as a leader of a team, what have you had to do to, um, adapt to this situation? How has your leadership style changed, or any other shift that has happened that you've had to consciously do?
I think a very good question, Yoshita, because I think this time has questioned and put all the leaders in a very different situation. See, none of us have actually ever dealt with a situation like this.
Absolutely, yeah.
There is no historic, what you call, proof of pudding of what's right and what's wrong.
Correct.
So you have to somewhere go with your gut. This is the time where your brain and heart could be at a conflict.
Mm.
What has been very important and what has worked very well in the current scenario is communication. I think communication is key. Like there is uncertainty for us, there is uncertainty for the team because they don't know what's coming up next, what to expect next, how does this affect them, does it affect them at all or not. Then there is a question of suddenly certain businesses going on hold. That creates a lot of anxiety
Right.
of what's really happening. So all of these uncertain situations you have to deal with, and what we have done and what I have done as a leader is ensure there is timely communication. And I think the concept of over communication doesn't apply in the scenario today. I think it is best to communicate and communicate more rather than not to communicate at all.
Right.
And when I say communication, communication is not just to do with what's happening professionally. I think what is important is right now to also be empathetic and listen to what the rest of your team is going through, because they are all in a very different kind of a scenario today. Uh, there are people in different, some of them are absolutely alone. They don't have anybody, and they
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
staying in a PG accommodation. Then there are some who are staying in a big joint family,
Yeah.
and they have to cater to their family needs, and then they have to work around in terms of what their professional duties are. So I think communication and communicating with empathy is something which is extremely important
Right.
at this stage. The second piece is, I think what has been very important is, as a leader, it is not necessary you have all the answers.
Mm.
It's important that we acknowledge and accept that we may not have a solution for everything.
That's a big
And
one.
I think it's absolutely very, yes, yes. And it's absolutely okay to say that, guys, I don't really have an answer for you, but what do you think we can do? So I think it's the time where I have seen there are people who stepped up. uh, I never thought some of them had the kind of skills and the attitude to really take on that baton and, move it like, don't worry, we'll do this. So I'm seeing a lot of creativity coming out in people in terms of what we can do. So I think it's, and then obviously there are a set of people who are very confused because of the fear of not knowing what is the outcome that it is going to lead to. So I think there are multiple scenarios, but communication, and I think it's absolutely okay to say I really don't have an answer right now.
So you've done that. So can you kind of give me any example or share an anecdote where you've had this kind of a challenge and you've
Yeah,
been.
absolutely. Absolutely. So let me pick up something when we talk about communication and over communication. Okay, now there was a time where initially in the lockdown phase, what happened, uh, we used to have, let's say, these team calls, which used to happen once in a week. That was because of the fact that we were meeting everybody in the office, everybody was getting to know each other. So once a week or weekly updates was good enough. Suddenly, just in about a week's time, I think I realized that's not really working, because I could see, people being very uncertain because suddenly there is, uh, let's say, a candidate who's got stuck somewhere, a client is coming and asking you for a different kind of solution, etc. So there were multiple scenarios that were coming in. People were dealing with too much. They don't have a family. They have parents who need their care because they don't have anybody to take care of them. So what we decided to do was, or that we just have like a 10-minute stand-up meeting every day.
Okay.
Okay, where even if it's not necessarily about work. Are you okay? It's like a check-in. Anything good? Is there anything we need to talk about related to work, related to anything else? So I think we consciously started doing that. We followed that for a very long time period. I would say almost a month. I used to do it with, my direct team, and my team used to in turn do it with their teams, and which ensured that we are in touch with our people on a day-to-day basis and not just relying on that weekly or a bi-monthly kind of a call, which is there. And I think that really helped, because today we are at this phase where I can very happily say we've reduced that daily to twice a week.
Okay.
Because I think people are more settled. They've started accepting that this is the way we have to work for some time to come. And I think the external environment and factors are also very, very critical in terms of deciding what our mindset is. So I think that's as far as communication is concerned that, we've had to do. And, there have been situations when I talk about creativity and all, where, there are people who've come out with certain kind of solutions which we had thought we could not have done. People have volunteered to pick up projects and do stuff which is going to add value to the client.
Right.
Which we used to think we will do, but today it has enabled us and given us that space and time to actually bring it to execution and bring it to light.
That's fantastic. I think the fact that you've been able to, your team has taken that opportunity of using this time to bring more value, and I think that's really amazing. So for you, Konika, what has been your moments of dilemma in this process, and any moments of triumph that you can share with us?
Okay, when I think dilemmas, I think there would be many dilemmas that you kind of, I'm sure, and if I say I didn't have dilemmas, I think I'm going to be abnormal to say that there were no dilemmas in the current stage. There have been, starting from the fact, is it okay that I'm telling my, team member that, hey, you know what, I'm cooking in the kitchen. Can I call you in 10 minutes? Because you're so used to the fact that, you're always available for them. To the time when, let's say, a client requests, can we have a call at 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the evening or on a Saturday? Um, it's been very hard to say no.
Yeah.
And that's probably where it also leads to some of the challenges, that when most of the people come back and say that their schedules have kind of gone haywire, that's one reason, because they're in constantly in that dilemma, uh, because you are expected to deliver professionally, and because you are in your home environment, there are your personal responsibilities as well. So which one do you pick up? And I think that's constantly there,
Yeah.
to the point where you arrive and say, hey, this worked for me earlier. I used to be in my office environment doing these many hours. I don't see why I should not do that. And it's absolutely okay for me to say that let's put this to tomorrow. If it is not burning, if it is something that can be addressed tomorrow, so let's do it tomorrow. So it comes to another important thing which we leaders keep talking about all the time: prioritization.
Yeah.
What is priority for me right now? That is going to be very important. So I think we should not forget our basics,
Yeah.
and we should continue to
I
hang
think
on to them.
COVID has in a way reminded us about our basics, but yeah, I hear this challenge of, the line getting blurred, because in the day you may be cooking a meal which you have to serve to your family, and then you also have work calls, and you also have, so yeah, so one has to really juggle a lot more suddenly, and it is definitely difficult. And I think you have a very interesting triumph story as well, so why don't you tell us
Oh
that?
yes, the triumph one, I think, is my one of the biggest triumphs I've had, which I have been fighting for, and I think that's the silver lining on the personal side of it. And you know me for a while, and I'm quite a foodie, to the extent some of them, if they are in a situation where they don't know they're in some city, they want to figure out where to go and eat. So I think I'm a walking, talking Zomato for them. uh, so so I think I have been able to get rid of some of those, and have adopted a far more healthy lifestyle. I don't know if it is a factor of the fact that there was limited supply of groceries which were available in the market, and you had a fear of ordering in from outside. But yeah, it's a very healthy choice of food that we have, everybody in my family has adopted to. I have lost 15 kilos in 2.5 months.
Wow.
Whereas for me, it was, yes, it was a challenge to even lose one. Um, and it is so good when, so the other day, I have to share this with you. I have a colleague of mine who tells me, there seems to be something different about you. So he saw me on video after a long time. He said, there seems to be something different about you. I said, what do you mean by there's something different about me? And I got very conscious about it, what's happened to me type of thing. And God knows what these Zoom video calls make you look like. He said, no, but I can see a Konika which I saw like some 5 years back. So he said, have you lost weight? And then I told him, because right now you can only see the face, right? So
Mhm.
I said, and I told him, I shared with him, and he said, it is unbelievable. It hasn't actually happened. And to the extent, then I created a before after picture and sent it. And, so yes, that's a big one. Everybody in my family is more this thing. I'm exercising for 45 minutes every day. I'm
Wow.
doing my meditation for 15 minutes every day. So I have that 1 hour, and I absolutely have all intentions of preserving this 1 hour every day with me going forward.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure. I think that you are just glowing with this shift in how you coming across. And believe me, Zoom makes you look beautiful right now. I mean, you look absolutely.
Thank you. You're being very kind. So thank you for that.
Not at all, not at all. But I think, yeah, so getting that space to rethink and, re-examine. Otherwise, we're always on that treadmill of life, and that there's a pause that has come in. And I'm also wondering, because as a leader, one of your roles would be to keep people motivated at this really, really uh, demotivating time for many of us. And for any leader to do that, I think it's very important that you keep yourself motivated first. So could you share with us what are some practices that you have followed so that you kind of insulate yourself from all the negative energy that is hitting us 24/7?
Sure. And absolutely, absolutely. So first and foremost, I know we are going through a very big crisis right now world over. But the first thing I did is stop looking at all the WhatsApp videos and forwards which were coming in talking about COVID-19 and all sorts of theories that so many people, and then, people sending statistics on
Mm,
how many people have fallen sick
mm,
and how many people are dying. So I think the first and the foremost thing I did was stop looking at those numbers, because that can really freak you out. There is a problem.
mm,
That there are certain basic rules that you have to follow, like social distancing, taking care of your hygiene, specifically your hand hygiene,
mm.
ensuring you are wearing a mask when you're especially out in public places, to obviously protect yourself and protect other people as well.
Sure.
So I think we have to follow those basics. And I don't think that's changing. I haven't seen any other theory which is talking about anything else right now. So I think we have to absolutely do that. And the other very important piece is, Yoshita, which I would like to share with you. What you're saying, in the initial days, I figured out every time we used to ask people what's going on, is there something you want to talk to? They would talk about, you know, what is not going right. So
Mm,
then I started following one exercise with the team.
mhm.
I said, okay, so when we start the session or we close the session, we will start with, today I am grateful for.
Okay.
Okay. And each one of us has to say, what am I grateful for today? And count our blessings in this time.
Mm, mm,
So I know initially they were a little apprehensive, but I think the moment you start speaking like that, you start thinking differently also.
that's true. Yeah.
And I could see that bring in a lot of positive energy and positive influence in how people were talking and how they were reacting to different scenarios.
Mm.
So that's something that we do. In fact, I started following the same thing even with my son.
Okay.
He's a cricketer. He's a very, very outdoor person, and he is absolutely not getting an opportunity to get out of the house.
Mm,
And he would come and crib every day, and then we all are dealing with the screen time, because they are having online classes and then they have all these video games, and you
mm.
really don't know what else to do.
Correct.
So I started telling him, I said, you know what, you need to come and tell me today before you sleep, what have you been grateful for today? So
Okay.
let's start counting on what is happening good in your life, rather than focusing on what's not happening well in your life. So,
Right.
very basic things came. I had pizza today, or, I got to, speak with my cousins who are there today, with, who have, distance, at a distance from us. The fact that I won 500 rupees in family tambola today. So that was also, something which was very exciting for him. So I think
Yeah.
every day we are grateful for something. And the fact that I'm sitting here talking to you in the office is another important and very something I'm grateful for. That, we've obviously had a soft opening and we're not asking everybody to come in.
Mm.
But I think a lot of things that we should be blessed for.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for sharing those practices. I think really truly from the heart. So Konika, just tell me as a last thing that I want to ask you, what what has been your biggest learning or realization through these last 2 months, both as a person as well as a leader? I mean, there could be two different things. So just share your learnings, which something that you will carry forward um, as even when we leave the
Sure.
space behind.
Sure. So I think I will break that up into two parts, Yoshita. If I have to talk about myself as a leader,
Mm-hmm.
one thing I have learned is that sometimes you have to, just, and where we always talk about it in theory, you have to rise to the occasion. It's all right. Sometimes, like I mentioned, not to have all answers. And it is also sometimes okay to acknowledge that this is what it is, this is what is the situation. Now,
Right.
what does that translate into? It translates into the fact that agility in today's time is far more important and a virtue, I would say,
Mm,
than it has ever been.
mm,
We've spoken about agility all the time. I think it is something which is required. But in today's time, you have to practice it. So if you're not agile, you are not receptive enough that, this is a change and I can't control this change, but I have to deal with it and work around it. I think that is something which is very, very important.
so,
And as far as my personal side is concerned, I think one thing I have learned is, um, you know, you play different roles, okay, of a mother, of a wife, of a daughter. Um, and I was going through this dilemma of when I need to be what, which is there, but I think it is important to first be me myself. Okay, when you start giving too much to everybody, somewhere you yourself take a hit and you are not able to give your best.
mm,
And I think that translates professionally as well. So
mm,
I think that me time is very, very important. So I know we have different roles to play, but taking out that time, so that 1 hour which I am taking out, which
mm.
has done me personal good, that's the time when I would say is my me time in the whole day. And I absolutely thoroughly enjoy it. And it keeps me charged for the whole day then.
So is it going to be non-negotiable going forward?
Non-negotiable for sure.
Okay, wonderful. I think that that's great to know. And thank you so much, Konika. You really shared very, very candidly, straight from your heart. And I really appreciate that. I'm sure people who watch this interview would also resonate and appreciate the fact that you've been really open with your inner game. So thank you. Thank you.